Hey everybody, I'm Anthony. Welcome to On the Snap. Special video for you today about preparing for a match. And these are different recommendations from myself and from my guest here today, Devon Cloud, who will introduce himself in just a minute. You're going to want to stick around until the end. There are some real gems and some really great time-tested wisdom in this video. So I hope you guys enjoy. I'll kick it over to Devon here so he can introduce himself, and then we'll get into some of our recommendations for you.
Hey, all right, Anthony. Thanks for having me back. I'm Devon Cloud. I'm a professional certified PBIA instructor. I specialize in mental management for billiards. That's kind of where I kind of specialize in my training. I train everything, but in terms of my courses, I kind of do a lot of deep diving in the mental management aspect, which I'm kind of hoping we can kind of go into on this call a little bit. So that's that's my spiel.
Yeah, thanks, Devon. Yeah, and I know a lot of you guys were asking about more specifics, more preparation, and in particular, the mental management aspect. So we're really going to go a little deeper into that today. Subject of the video, as I said, is preparing for a match. And so what you're going to see, Devon and I are going to go back and forth, share some recommendations. You're going to see some kind of video, maybe some shots of me at the table, some of the drills that I'll be recommending, some of the exercises for warm-ups as we go along. So we'll be cutting back and forth. But yeah, I would just want to jump right into this here with the first point, which is your pre-match mindset. So how are you thinking about things going into this match? Are we talking about going to play with a friend, but maybe it's a little bit of a back and forth that you've had with this friend over the years? Are we talking about a league night? How seriously are you taking this? How relaxed are you? Are you out for blood, right? Do you really want to crush your opponent that night? Are we talking about a tournament? Is this a regional, a weekly tournament, or maybe a higher level tournament that you're preparing for? The level of competition that you expect is really going to inform that pre-match mindset and also generate some nerves at a different level. So Devon, I'd love to hear you speak to this a little bit. I think a lot of players would experience a different level of nerves on a friendly night of competition or a league night compared to your weekly or your regional level of tournament. So what do you say?
Yeah, you're going to see a lot of differences there, not just depending on what type of match you're playing, but also just in the individual themselves and their personalities and emotional states, so to speak. Even with the same person from one night to another, just depending on life struggles and whatnot that are going on. So, but really, when it comes down to it, preparation is almost always going to be the same in terms of what you can do in order to prepare for those mentally. I always prepare for my matches starting roughly an hour before the matches. And what I love to do is, and this helps, especially if you've got a lot of stuff on your mind that you're trying to get out of your mind so that you can focus on pool, is just start thinking about pool in a way that is essentially your escape from all of that, right? This is something I like to teach my students a good bit, because even if that's not what they're currently using pool for, having that mindset in terms of like, yeah, this is my time for my mind to be able to take a break from my work issues, my home issues, maybe you lost a loved one. There's all sorts of things that can happen in life that you can just say, look, this is a time for you to go and enjoy yourself and take a break, brain, and focus on something just completely unrelated to all that for a few hours and relax and enjoy yourself, have fun. And that is the first thing I start doing, is start getting into the habit of doing that every single time I play. And I have my students do that too. Matter of fact, I have them journal on it. The reason being is because the more and more you do that, the more and more that is what pool becomes. And that makes it much, much easier for you when you walk into that pool hall to then be ready to focus on the task at hand and leave those troubles behind you. Get rid of those frustrations. You've all we've all played that player that just had that bad day that was just being a horse's ass, and you could just tell they had like the worst day ever, and that's how you get out of that. So that's where I start with my routines. There's
Yeah.
plenty more, but that's kind of how I prepare for a match, and it doesn't really matter if it's a big match, a league match, or anything else. That is how I begin. I want the mindset of this is fun. This is a way for you just to get into something that you just completely enjoy, and you can just focus directly on that and nothing on that, and just have a blast.
Yeah, I love that
Yeah.
perspective, Devin. I think it's really mentally healthy to think about it that way, right? We're talking about a game
Yep.
after all. We're supposed to be in this for fun. And sometimes those nerves, the things that we are experiencing in our life, we're bringing those to the table. There's a downward spiral that we're really setting ourselves up for in that case, right? If we're coming in with, like you said, some weight, some family events, some personal events, maybe we just got laid off, who knows what the personal thing is. It's going to add that weight to the game and really drag us down and prevent us from enjoying ourselves as much as we could. And I think we all know when we're in that zone of enjoying ourselves and relaxing, that's where we're going to be playing our best pool. And that's going to enable us to access the higher levels of our game, which can then make us feel even better. So whatever the
Yeah,
opposite of a
I mean,
downward spiral is, positive
yeah,
feedback
right, and
loop, right?
it's not just amateurs that would suggest that too. I mean, that's a technique professional players use all the time.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Um, you've got the Moscone Cup going on right now, and that's one of the things that they were talking about in terms of Sky back preparing for his match last night, blasting some country music and just completely enjoying himself while he was practicing, getting ready to come out and play the last match of the night.
Right.
And he won.
Right.
So
Yeah.
perfect example of just his unique way of doing exactly that.
Psyching
So,
yourself up. And to your point, Devin,
right.
I wanted to circle back to the idea that these are skills, just like the techniques that you're learning on the pool table, right? These mental management strategies are skills that require practice. You're not going to be able to just immediately sink into this and feel like you get amazing results right away. It takes some time to find the approach that works for you, to customize that, and then to get the repetitions into where it feels like it really works. So to that point, some things that I would recommend are visualization strategies and breathing exercises. And we hear about these all the time, but I wonder if we can get more practical, kind of, more specific about this today. Something that I really enjoy doing, if you know the environment where you're going to play. So for example, maybe it's your home bar table, maybe it's that tournament table. Imagine yourself, the visualization technique is to imagine yourself in that environment and connect with the sensory experiences of being in that environment as much as possible. So what kind of temperature do you imagine the room is? How does the carpet feel under your shoes? Is there music playing in the background? What kind of music would you like to be playing in the background? When you run your hand across the rail or the felt of the table, what is that sensation for your fingertips? What does it smell like in the room? Is it one of those older pool halls where there's that sort of residual smoky smell to the room? Is there some spilled stale beer going on? Get as specific as possible about that sensory experience. And then your mind is going to start to connect more with how your body would feel in that environment. And you're already practicing relaxing and keying into the sensory experience of being in the table, being on the table in that specific room.
Okay, so what you're referring to there is called SLFET. It is a technique that our military developed for snipers. And yeah, SLLS stands for stop, look, listen, smell. And it is meant to A, bring your heartbeat down. B, get your sensory perceptions in all sorts of different ways, kind of get you focused on all of that, where you're uber focused on your environment. And what that does for people is it allows you to focus on one individual thing at a time, which is what your brain really wants to do in the first place. We all think we can, multitask. That's absolutely incorrect. Your brain thinks about one thing at a time. So thinking about your environment really does help. I do the same thing. As a matter of fact, I've walked into pool halls where I stop right after I get in the door, and somebody's got to shug me out of the way because I get so involved in that particular thing where I'm doing that. I'm letting my senses completely envelop what I'm doing in the room, or what's going on in the room. Like to see where people are heavily vaping, and look and see how that vape smoke kind of dissipates in the air. And uh, um, I get really involved in that, and it really does help, uh, uh, to kind of get me in that mindset to be focused and get ready to get into dead stroke. Now, that's not the only thing that you can use SLLS for. You can actually use SLLS to calm yourself down after you get upset in a match as well.
Good point. Right.
Yeah. So there you go.
Yeah, great grounding technique, right? You can do it ahead of time. We're talking about preparing for a match here, but these are all skills that you can utilize in the middle of a match. If you're finding yourself getting tilted, if your mind is going in 1,000 different places at once, like we talked about, multitasking, not really a thing. It's just your mind kind of batting around different ideas and not being able to stay on one train of thought. We've all heard about hey, take a break, go to the bathroom, go take a breath. But this specific skill gets you grounded again, paying attention to the sensory experiences of that environment. And it's exactly the kind of mode that your mind wants to be in and enables that sort of enjoyment of the game, like we talked about before. To that end, the breathing exercises, we hear about these a lot too, but one practical one that I really like, and I'm sure you guys have heard about, and again, this comes up in military training too, so we might sense a bit of a theme going on here today. That stuff is out in military training for a reason. Square breathing, box breathing, four corner breathing. You hear it called a whole bunch of different things, but basic premise is you're breathing in for a set count. I like to do 3 or 4 seconds and adjust it to there, find out whatever feels best for your body. Hold for the same number, exhale for the same number, hold at the bottom of the breath for the same number. I do recommend going in through the nose and out through the mouth, but I haven't found that really makes too much of a difference. Again, it's kind of a personal thing, but square breathing or box breathing is such an easy technique to remember because it's so simple. But again, it is a skill, so it does take practice. And this helps the brain shift over from the fight, flight, or freeze. We're sensing some kind of threat. I'm getting overwhelmed. I'm getting frustrated. I'm getting angry. Shift us over from that mode into a calm rest and digest. I can relax and start to perform better. And then you enable that positive feedback loop that we were talking about before.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah, box breathing is a very, very good technique. Now, one thing that I would add to that is, when you breathe in, you hold your breath, and then you exhale. I usually try to close my eyes when I exhale and envision the tension in my neck, my shoulders, and my back leaving my body with my breath. Of course, that's imaginary. That doesn't really happen. But what it does do is it tells your brain where you want to go as far as why you're doing these types of breaths, which is, hey, I want you to relax. I want you to relax just like you're about to fall asleep. I want you to relax your muscles, get all that tension out. And there is one other technique that works wonderfully, by the way, if breathing techniques don't get you there, and that is yawning. Fake yawns, even, it doesn't matter, but yawns automatically have this way, it's a trigger. It's when you're about to go to sleep and you yawn, what happens? You relax because you're trying to go to sleep. So that's when you're yawning and you yawn, that's an automatic trigger that your body uses, your subconscious uses to say, hey, relax. So in those times when that breathing isn't working, yawn. Has another wonderful effect too sometimes when you're playing somebody. And let's say you're in the middle of if you're in the middle of a match and you guys are going back and forth and it's like, man, who knows who's going to win this thing? And your opponent looks over at you and you're yawning. That has a little bit of a psychological effect. Like, is he not even worried about this? What am I not seeing here? So I've actually had a couple of players come up to me and tell me, that psyched me out a little bit over there watching you yawn. And, and after the match was over, I was like, well, to be honest with you, that was a technique to calm myself.
Right. Yeah.
So that wasn't me being bored with your playing abilities. That was me trying to calm myself because your playing abilities were so good that I needed to ground myself,
Yeah. Good after the fact
So,
kind of compliment to them that you're
right.
leveraging those strategies to manage the game. But in the moment, it does have that kind of, bonus effect of them potentially getting in their heads. And yeah, this is definitely something that comes up in games, right? The mental management, it cuts both ways sometimes, right? The calmer
Mhm.
we are, maybe that does serve to psych them out. Um, in a similar vein to yawning, I'm really glad you bring that up. Something that I've been using is a sigh, and it has the same kind of neurological effect, but I think it could have the opposite mental effect on the opponent. If you sigh, if you're letting out that big breath, it could betray some of the nerves that are coming up for you, whereas the yawn has the opposite effect, right? Where it makes it seem like you're very relaxed or even bored. But I do find that the sigh, just a big inhale and then a big forceful exhale, has that same kind of immediate tension release effect. But yeah, could be perceived differently, we'll say.
Plenty of stuff out there that you can do. And you know, the great thing about it is, sometimes tools are used for more than one thing. And if you can have those tools at your disposal and be as efficient as possible with them, even better. So,
Definitely.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, great point. I think each of the strategies we're talking about today to some extent are kind of a multi-tool in and of themselves. Hey guys, thanks for checking out the video. I hope you enjoyed this one. I have more content coming like this. This was a long interview with Devon. Many more episodes to come. If you like this sort of content, make sure to let me know. Drop a comment. Make sure to like and subscribe if you have not done so already. I really appreciate you guys for doing that. It helps out the channel a lot. And I will see you again soon for the next one.